So I'm going to show you guys a little bit about what this Mecalac can do in a very short amount of time. Got a friend of mine who had a bunch of dirt that needed to be moved. A lot of uneven terrain on his property. He's got about 14 acres, and the previous owners had a dirt bike track and some berms and a couple of like double jumps, and he wanted those all smoothed out. So that was the first job. The second part to this job was a chicken pen that he just wanted demolished. Initially, he was saying, "Oh, I want to pick through, and I might keep some of this stuff." And afterwards, removing the whole thing. And then the third part on day two was digging an in-ground trampoline. It's about 20 yards of dirt, and it took a couple of hours with my smaller bucket, my 18-inch bucket, but we got the job done. It was really rocky. So over the next couple of videos that you'll see, I'm going to split it up into 3 videos. You'll see us take care of these 3 little jobs. Something to keep in mind as you're probably all wondering what I'm doing bumbling around on this machine. I don't do this for my main job, and I don't even have 100 hours on this machine yet. I'm still trying to get my rhythm down on it. I'm switching between skid steer mode, going to excavator mode, really trying to see what feels the most efficient to me. Right now I am trying to do excavator mode, so I can slew around and dump, so I'm not having to skid steer all around. So anyway, it's interesting, and I get a lot better simply at the end of this job. By this point, you can kind of tell I've gotten a lot faster. I'm pretty much just running this in skid steer mode. I'm using the joystick to back up, go forward, and I'm always keeping this thing in forward mode. I'm not using my foot pedals. Using the foot pedals just slows me down. This is way faster, more intuitive. If you just want to move a ton of dirt, doing some smoothing, skid steer mode really is nice. Should I go forward or backwards? Ah! That's heavy. That's pretty heavy duty. Hello? Hey. Well, we just kind of got started. It took forever to get loaded and all that. What time do you need me home? I wasn't planning on finishing today. I'm not planning on finishing, so I was going to leave it here. I'd like to work a little bit longer if I can. All right. this is pretty much wrapping up the last little bit of this dirt work. We've got it pretty smoothed out, not finished grade. Jesse's gonna work with my tractor a little bit and get this flattened out a little bit more. But there are no more berms. There's no more jumps. It's all pretty flat and level. It's just going to take a little bit more finish work. So I'm just going to drop this bucket here. And this took us probably an hour and a half. And we are going to get started on the chicken pen demolition. So that'll be in the next video. Hope you enjoyed watching. Just some basic work with the Mecalac 6MCR.